Everybody will say, what's the catch? Why in the world would you ever give me money back? And the simple answer is, we want all of your business.
Yeah.
Service provider wants you to sell all of their products. And it's just, that's the reason why they call it profit sharing. They're sharing the profits. They're still getting their admin, but everything else, after they've paid everything out, if you qualified, if you were committed to them, they're committed to you, and they're going to give you that back.
Today on the podcast, we have Haley Wright and Sarah Breen from Adventure Specialties F&I agency. Now, these guys are incredible. They have some great products. They work really closely with dealers. I know that personally because they are a part of the dealer lab. They help our F&I manager make sure that she stays on task, knows what products we've got, helps really improve the numbers in that particular department really, really well. But they don't really specialize just in that. They make sure that the message is getting heard across the entire store, that everybody's involved in the selling of F&I, because ultimately F&I isn't just a product or not just a sales department tool to increase profitability. It's also a retention tool to keep customers coming back over and over again. And we discussed that here in the podcast. So I hope you enjoy this episode. These are a great group of people that I think you're really going to enjoy listening to. If you'd like to support the show or be on the show, please reach out to the Dealer Lab at onex.io. And please like, subscribe, share, and enjoy the rest of the episode. Justin, you had to restart your computer because you're Claude coding too hard? Is that what the story is?
No, not at all. I had to restart my computer because technology is stupid and it's not run by people. And so I don't know anything about the 72 windows that I just closed, all running matrix styles, ones and zeros, like trickling down from the top. Nothing about that at all. But I do know some smoke came out of it the other day, and I think it's fine.
Pretty sure you're not supposed to let the smoke out of the computer.
The magic smoke.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna LF swap this thing one day, and then it'll be good to go.
It'll be a lot more smoke coming out of it then.
Will be.
If that were to happen. All right. So we have Haley and Sarah on the podcast today. I'm excited to have you guys on here. You can teach me something entirely new. I am not an F&I guy, and I don't know anything about it. So we're going to learn so much today. I'm really looking forward to it. So I guess before we jump in too far into this, I just want to kind of, I do my little research before anybody comes on. You guys are the founders, right, of Adventure Specialty Agency. Is that correct? Yeah. So before we get into why that started or when it started, let's just go into kind of background history of each of you guys. Haley, do you want to take it away? Kind of what were you doing before? How'd you get into this space?
Yeah. So in 2012, I was fortunate enough to get asked to join the RPM1 organization. Mm-hmm. And if you've been in the powersports industry for any amount of time, you've either heard of RPM1 or worked with RPM1. Great organization, great team of people. I work with Sarah, and I work with Mike Ellswick, which is my business partner. Nice. And now we have Jamie Casey, which was not part of the RPM1 organization, but he actually sold RPM1 products, so it actually was fitting. Nice. But when I was with RPM, I was the director of operations for many years, and that allowed me to work with the product team and work with dealerships to help grow dealerships and work with the sales organization. And then I switched over to becoming the sales leader for RPM1, and I still was able to work with Sarah and Mike on the sales side of things. And so I did that, and RPM1 was acquired by Protective, and I was a sales leader for Protective for many years with Sarah and Mike, and I decided to leave Protective and start the agency. But yeah.
Wow. So when did you make that jump? When did you leave that and start Adventure Specialties?
Decided to leave in October of 24. I can't believe it's already been that long, but we started the agency November of 2024, myself and Mike Ellswick, and we were lucky enough to get Sarah on board, and we kind of put the little team back together again. And yeah, I can't believe it's already been since 2024, but we've grown substantially, and it's been the best decision ever.
That's awesome. So Sarah, you joined was that right at the creation of Adventure Specialties, or a little after, or what happened and how'd you get there?
It was a little bit after. I've been full timing with Adventure Specialty for just about almost a year. I think about a year now. But similarly, first I worked in a dealership for a number of years doing F&I, and then I started with RPM1 in 2014.
Nice.
And then I was with RPM1 through the protective acquisition. Then I flailed off into the void for about a year, and then I came on with Adventure Specialty.
Okay, let's go into that. Tell us more about the void.
I went to go work with a dealer group with Justin for a little while, and then the whole purpose of me leaving Protective was that I was going to take on an apprenticeship to become a tattoo artist, because art is the love of my life.
Yeah.
So I did that for a little while, realized that for me, art isn't the thing that I want to be making money with, and there's too much joy in that. And I really love the powersports industry and the recreational industry and what I did with dealerships. And it was perfect timing with what Haley and Mike were building to come aboard and work with the people that I love. So,
Well, it's like motorcycles, right? Like they're really cool, they're awesome, and then you get in the industry and you're like, you see them every day, all the time. You're like, I don't love them as much as I did before. I still love them, but it's a lot. So I understand the tattoo commitment and change. You were traveling around in an RV for a long time, is that right? Weren't you like constantly on the road?
No.
What?
No. I mean, I have a bus, a converted school bus, but it's just for camping. I'm not like, living. I never was living in it.
Man,
a lot of people thought
you were
I
like,
was, but
my vision of you was like traveling the country, living in deserts and stuff. That never happened?
no, I mean, no, I traveled around.
That's
but-
probably my fault. I've been spreading I've been spreading false rumors about Sarah for years, dude.
100%.
Like there's a cauldron in there. There's all sorts of fun stuff that happens in the imaginary bus trip.
Yep. Yeah, there was an imaginary.
I mean, there's definitely bus trips, but not as severe as the picture that was probably painted. I'm based in Las Vegas, so.
Yeah, there's cauldrons in Las Vegas, right? That's a big thing there. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
All right. So one of the main reasons that we have you on the show is that you actually help with the dealer lab. You are a contributor basically to making sure that the F&I department of Moto Julia, which is the lab, is running well. And so I want to know, I mean, I'm aware of what you're doing in this case, but please share a little bit of like, what are you doing? How are you offering help to the F&I managers? How often you meet with them? I mean, you've been providing some real incredible support to that F&I office and really been moving the needle for them. And that just comes with being an Adventure Specialties client. Like, how does that work? Tell me about it.
So I have been doing weekly calls with Moto Julia as well as other dealerships in the group for quite a long time, and it carries on through Adventure Specialty even more so. So we do a weekly call. It's usually about 30 minutes. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer, but we talk about numbers. We talk about the recent deals within the previous week, what went right, what went wrong, what was sold. We talk about specific customer objections together. The team also gets to talk about what challenges or successes they're experiencing with lenders or different deals that they've done. So it builds a lot of camaraderie, especially with stores like Moto Julia, where you have one finance person. They don't have another finance person to spitball off of. It's just that one person. So this builds like a team, like a little community within that group that they can work together and talk through some things. We also set goals, and it's my job to help them get to those goals and to challenge them to think outside of what they're doing, to utilize the service drive, or to think about a product in a new way, or to like just check their mindset, because so much of our success and our failure in F&I comes from our brains and our mindset of how we're taking on each deal. So I love doing it. It's really successful, and I think that the team really likes it too.
Yeah, having spent so much time with Garage Composites, there was you could definitely see when someone would bring in an F&I trainer, you'd see a huge bump in their F&I dollars, but then it would just go away because people would stop doing it. Like they'd pay attention, they'd try it for a while, and it would disappear. And the fact that you guys consistently are checking in and setting goals and keeping people to task, like it makes it so much more sustainable. So thank you for that. Is that something that you do with all Adventure Specialty clients?
With most, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah. That one of the things that whenever we sign a dealer and launch them and get them set up. Right out the gate, we're talking about F&I logs and making sure that everyone is keeping that F&I log. And that's where it allows us to drill down and see what's actually going on in the F&I office, who they're selling, how they're selling it, like Sarah was saying, their challenges. It could be, we have a section in the F&I log that if you have a large dealership that has multiple salespeople, multiple F&I staff, that sales log is all in one place and allows you to keep track by salesperson and F&I person. So it allows you to identify anything that is happening at any point in time. If you start to see pin rate start to lower, and then you look that maybe it's a specific salesperson, that every single time it's that salesperson, they're not getting pin rate. What's happening on the sales floor? Is it a proper TO? Is there something that needs to be changed in that space within the dealership? So we try to do that in every dealership as we're launching them, talking about the importance of that F&I log.
That's great.
Haley, what is pin rate and TO for those of us who are just watching this for the first time? Because they mean different things to me than you, I think.
Okay, so TO is turnover from the sales floor over to the F&I office. Is a handoff, the customer handoff. Is the finance person getting up out of their desk, going over and introducing themselves on the sales floor, building that rapport and everything, and it's that proper TO, proper turnover of that customer. The pin rate is getting the customer to commit to products. How many products are you getting on that specific deal?
So pen rate would be like your number of contracts, basically.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I do know what they mean. But the cool thing is that I've noticed is that kind of conversation happens in these groups, which it doesn't necessarily happen with standalone F&I people who don't have a group to talk to. So they're turning to other people for support and or information in a dealership that they are the authority, even if they're not necessarily somebody who's done it for a long time. And if they have done it for a long time, they probably have some bad habits they don't know about. So here's just a little bit of an example, because I've worked with you guys through singular dealership, small group, very large groups, and then back down to singular dealerships again. It's all over the board. But the group that Sarah built so there's a lot of void flinging in this industry, apparently. So about the same time that Sarah was flung off into the void, I've flung myself off into the void too. So I've been there a couple of times, right? And unlike Sarah's mythical only traveled at night cauldron bust, I actually did travel around in an RV.
Dude, that's it. I was just combining the stories.
You're mixing stories. Yeah. I tried to stay in there forever and I couldn't. But the group that she had built and was running continued to meet without her or I for a while. Yeah. And so when she came back into the fold, she just came back to the original meeting that they had set up. And the really important part of this is those dealers were no longer group oriented. They were individual dealers. They had turned into their own little support network. And that is something that you just don't see in motorsports. It's like the consistency of the message and the accountability, they were holding themselves accountable, and it was great. It was like Lord of the Flies. One of them had scratched up glasses and a pig's head, but we got him help. We got him help. He's fine now. He still thinks he's the leader, but it's all right. He might be.
Wow. Good job. How'd you set that up to be so self-sustaining there, Sarah?
I mean, it was just repetition and it held value, like they enjoyed coming to the meeting every week. It's not like we don't pick on people and make people feel bad. We lift people up and celebrate wins, and like people actually have their questions answered and feel like they're getting better from those, I guess. I mean, that's my perception. I was blown away that they did that. I thought it was incredible that they continued to do that after I had flailed.
Void flail. It's actually a really good message, not just for what you guys are doing, but just for what we do in general, is that culture is created through repeatable action and actual accountability. People love to be held accountable by mostly by their peers, in all honesty, people who are doing the same job. It creates a little bit of competition, but it also like is a safe space where you can use words like pin rate and TO and not get made fun of.
I mean, I think it's safe space. It's also, when I was running those service management academies, it was, I would say that some of it was training and a lot of it was therapy. It was a chance for somebody to complain about the situation they just had on their desk, and then somebody else say, I had the same thing. I mean, it really is, it can be a kind of an isolating role when you're in, especially a smaller dealership, like just like you'd mentioned, Haley, when there's one F&I person inside of a store, like there's nobody else that knows that skill set. There's nobody else that can talk about what it's like to desk a deal like that and what they have to juggle. And so, no, I think it's really valuable, no matter if it's about tracking a leaderboard, which I'm sure that is there, that's a part of it, but or talking about numbers. It's just about somebody else doing a very similar thing is pretty valuable.
The best therapy comes with accountability as well, though. So it isn't just like bitching, it's bitching with purpose. So if you can fix the problems, get out of the solutions, and that's where the data tracking comes from. So ask me how I know who the best therapists are. Don't do that.
Because they have spreadsheets that track your success. Is that why?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Show up with the spreadsheet. That's great. So how many of these groups are each of you running? I mean, I'm assuming there's a lot of this happening.
Well, we're knocking on 100 dealerships now. So we have quite a few dealer groups, but we don't just do it with the dealer group. If it's a single rooftop opportunity, we still take that opportunity to do that F&I log. We do everybody, like Justin was saying, they like accountability. At first, they may like push back a little bit and everything, but once they get in there and to grow them as an individual, the more they grow, the bigger their paychecks are. So it's one of those things that when you go in there and you have that honest conversation with that new person or someone that is just, they think that they're doing fantastic. And then when you break it all down and you see that, well, maybe you could be doing better, or let's like drill down to see what that really looks like. You set those attainable goals. There's a lot of people that when you go in and you talk to them and they say, man, I want to be at 75%. I want to have 75% of product on all of my dealers or all of my customers or whatever. But you sit there and you're like, well, is that attainable? So it's about setting attainable goals and then holding them accountable. I think that it doesn't matter the number of rooftops. It's an individual type of growing process.
Nice. That is very cool. So let's talk about products. Do you guys will help them sell any product, right? I mean, you're an agency. You're not necessarily just using certain tools, certain PPMs or extended service contracts or anything. Is that correct?
We have a number of service providers, meaning the people that provide the products that we install into dealers. We have a number. It's not a high number because we're very picky of who we partner with in order to put products into a dealership. So when we go into a dealership, our goal is to put them with a service provider that fits what their goals are. If they want a full product suite, every one of our service providers has a full product suite. Nice. So we kind of look at what the dealership is wanting to do. What is their end goal? Do they want to go into a reinsurance position? Do you want to go into a retro or something along those lines? And we look at what types of products or what types of units that they're currently selling. And then we kind of decide which service provider is the best fit for the dealership. If we put in, say, a primary service provider and say that they have a need for a product that service provider doesn't offer, and those are usually very small ancillary products. Us as an agency, it gives us the ability to fill in that gap and maybe put in a secondary provider for that one product. But as an agency, I think that it's really strong to partner with strong service providers so that we can go in there and put in a full product suite of a very strong service provider that offers everything that a dealership may need.
That's great.
Yeah, that's
One thing
cool.
that I've been hearing a lot about is reinsurance. There's been a lot of talk about reinsurance and what is the other thing that you guys do there?
Retro.
Retro. Yeah. Can you kind of break down reinsurance and retro a little bit to me? Kind of how those things work?
Yeah. Yeah. So with Adventure Specialty, it's a decision that we've made as an agency. Every dealer that we go in, we will have a participation conversation with the decision maker. Our goal is to have every one of our dealers participating in either a retro or reinsurance. A retro is no risk to the dealership. It's an automatic sign up. It has a tier structure where if they meet a certain number of contracts, then they get a percentage of the remaining reserves. And I guess I should break down what actually makes up a dealer cost, say a VSC, so that everyone can understand like what I'm talking about with reserves. So there's two parts of dealer cost. So when you have a VSC, for instance, I call that a core product. When you have a VSC, you have two parts. You have admin and then you have reserve. The admin is what the service provider collects off of every single contract in order to keep their lights on, to pay for the claims adjudicate, to pay for their sales organization and so forth. That's a stated amount. The remainder of it is the reserves. The reserves go into one bucket. So every single contract that's being sold, all the reserves goes into that bucket. From that bucket, you get your claims and your cancellations deducted from it as they come in. At the end of the year, then whatever is left over in that reserve bucket after claims and cancellation is what is paid back to a dealership in whatever tier percentage that they qualified for. That percentage is paid back to the dealership in a retro. And it's just, thank you for doing business with
awesome.
us.
Yeah.
Everybody will say, what's the catch? Why in the world would you ever give me money back? And the simple answer is, we want all of your business.
Yeah.
Service provider wants you to sell all of their products. And it's just, that's the reason why they call it profit sharing. They're sharing the profits. They're still getting their admin, but everything else, after they've paid everything out, if you qualified, if you were committed to them, they're committed to you, and they're going to give you that back.
So that's a part of
So-
picking those service providers, those specific ones that you're using.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely. If a dealer, it doesn't matter how small that they are, there's a retro out there that will fit that dealership.
Nice.
So that's where that conversation comes in is what does your dealership look like? What does that profile look like? Let us put in the right service provider so that you get some back end profitability. You have all the front end, and then we're going to work with you. Myself, Sarah, Mike, Jamie, our agency, we work with you to make sure that you meet those qualifiers. It may be that you qualified for 50%, but then the next 6 months when we're pulling those numbers and we're doing those F&I logs, we can look at where you're trending towards to maybe get you to that 90% goal,
Wow.
the 90% of the retro.
Wow.
So that's the reason it's really strong to go in and have the mindset from an agency standpoint of there is no walkaway dealers, meaning a walkaway dealer is a dealer that participates in nothing.
Yeah.
They're just leaving so much money on the table. So that's the reason why us as Adventure Specialty, we're putting every single one of our dealers on a retro.
Yeah.
It's a risk. If they qualify for 1 year and they don't qualify for the next year, it's perfectly fine. But we're going to do whatever we can do in order to get you to qualify.
So when you're out onboarding dealers, are you seeing a lot of dealers right now who are not on a retro at all? Are missing out on that opportunity? Is that common?
It used to be extremely common.
Really?
It's not as common as it used to be back in the RPM 1 days.
Yeah.
Man, it was like back in RPM 1, you could go into a dealership and you could say, I'm with a service provider, and they'd be like, what is product? What is a service provider?
Yeah.
Long, those days have long passed us. That's how, and I would say, I don't know, Sarah, would you say in the past 2 to 3 years where it's all about retros and reinsurance. So now you go into a dealership, it's a little bit more of a challenge to get them to sit down, because you'll hear them say, oh, I'm already in a participation program with so, or I'm in a reinsurance. Reinsurance is simple, because if you partner with service providers of reinsurance, then any of the products that they are currently seeding into a reinsurance can then seed in to someone else's reinsurance. So it's an easy transition from a reinsurance position over into a reinsurance position.
Cool.
Reinsurance side, we're hearing a lot of dealers saying, oh, I'm in reinsurance. And then you start to ask them questions, and they have very little of understanding about the reinsurance company.
Yeah. Okay.
And where reinsurance is a little bit different than retro is you form your own company, and you kind of, in an agency or in a service provider or anything like that, you have to do your due diligence to go into the dealership, because not everybody is going to qualify for reinsurance. So if someone is going in there and you are selling maybe, say, 400 units on an annual basis, and someone is going in there and talking to you about reinsurance, you kind of need to take a step back and really understand, make sure as a dealership that you're asking the right questions, because it may not be viable for you to be in a reinsurance position.
And why is that? The risk outweighs the return on that, or why is that? Is there a size difference?
Because you have to form a company, you have books, records, and taxes, you have fees associated with it. So it may be costing you more money than what you're actually putting in.
Gotcha.
So you want to make sure that you have that conversation. When we go in and we talk about reinsurance, we talk about retro and reinsurance at the same time. We can sit down with the dealer principal or the decision maker, and we look at, first question is, what is your annual unit sales? So we look at that. We look at their unit mix. Is it on-road versus off-road? Is it Harley versus Triumph? Is it, you got to look at it that, because all of that makes a difference in the reserve structure. A Harley reserve structure is completely different than a Triumph reserve structure because of loss ratios and claims and that kind of thing. So you have to look at it. You have to have that conversation and look at the whole dealer. You have to profile everything, and you ask the question, what is your end goal? Are you looking to acquire more dealerships, or are you looking to be acquired?
Yeah.
So you're looking at everything. What I would say is, when you go in there and say that they're selling 600 to 1,000 units on an annual basis, and say that it's a Harley dealer and selling 600 units. If they're selling about 400 core products, and when I say 400, I mean core products like your VSC and your priority maintenance. Those are core products. Everything else is ancillaries. If they're selling about 400 to 600 products on an annual basis in that core section, and then they have about 200 ancillary products, that's about 600 contracts on an annual basis. That's a good starting point to start the conversation of a reinsurance formation.
Nice.
It's also a really good retro opportunity. So that's a good basis. About 600 contracts is, you're going to be very profitable in both the reinsurance side, and you're going to be profitable in the retro side as well. So what Sarah and myself and Mike and Jamie will do is, we'll go to a service provider and we'll say, okay, here's all the data that we got back from the dealer. We would like you to build a pro forma that's based on a retro and a pro forma based on a reinsurance with realistic numbers. This is their actual data. So let's build it out that way. Sometimes we will, through that conversation, we will say, okay, what do you believe that you're currently at in terms of pin rate on your products? And say that maybe they're at 35% on VSC. And we know that we can get them to 45 to 55%. We'll take those numbers and maybe a 10 to 20% growth, and we'll do a very conservative performa, but then we'll do an aggressive performa as well to say, and this is where if you got 20% increase in your penetration rate of product, this is what that would look like.
Wow.
And when we present that, we allow the dealer to make an educated, informed decision on which direction that they would want to go. It's not us making that decision for them. We're putting their numbers in front of them and saying, this is where your profitability can be.
Yeah, and add in the fact that you're going to help hold their hand and keep them accountable to all that. I mean, that's
Right.
very attainable number for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And then the other thing is to make sure that it's just not us. We're salespeople. At the end of the day, when we walk in the door, we are salespeople. We're selling ourselves. We're selling our agency. We're selling the service provider, but we're also their consultant of making those right decisions.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a reinsurance aspect, there's a lot that goes into forming that company. So we make sure that our service providers come into that conversation. As soon as they decide on, maybe they're thinking, hey, I want to do that reinsurance thing, but I don't know the pros and cons of going that route versus the retro route. We then kind of, in conjunction with the service department, we bring in the experts, the ones that know the books, records, and taxes, and all of that, all of those very detailed questions about reinsurance. We bring them into that conversation, and we start having those meetings so that we take ourselves out from being the sales side.
Yep.
And we allow the experts, subject matter experts, answer those questions. That way, it brings all the validity to the conversation of, this is your informed decision.
Yeah. I
It's
really
it's a big conversation. It's funny
Yeah.
because I apologize for this, but I can't tell you how many times I've referred to you guys as low hanging fruit. So there's something for everybody. And when I went through it with my own store, the retro made perfect sense because I actually get, longer conversation, but we get checks cut. And when we were a mid-sized dealer group, we got good checks cut. And it was like, I met it with squinty eyes at the beginning. Back in the RPM 1 days, I worked for a solo dealer that was very suspect of everything. And so I remember when I first heard about it, I was like, that's fake. And then I kind of felt that way for a long time, for retro at least. And then it was like, oh wait, where'd this check come from? And how do I, and then it was like, and it is a real thing. But the cool thing about having you guys as like a soundboard, the professionals in the group, is that I don't know anything, like legitimately. I'll tell you what I thought reinsurance was for, but we can't air it. The thing is that when I reached out, it was you did all the due diligence, but it was a very clear, don't do reinsurance. That doesn't make any sense for what you're doing, but do retro. And here's what your checks should look like. And as long as you maintain that performance or increase it. But the low hanging fruit conversation is crazy because, like, from what you guys are doing, you're doing thousands and thousands of unit dealerships, maybe not thousands and thousands, but these big dealerships that have their own reinsurance companies, down to like me. I'm a very small dealer, and you're still managing that retro program for me. But there's still dealers out there that don't sell products. There's still dealers out there that don't have a designated F&I manager. Which actually has started to shift a little bit because you do have those cradle to grave places that actually do work, but they're selling product. They're dealers we talk to on a regular basis that don't really participate or have like a title clerk who like eats it and really just wants to do title clerking. And it is crazy. And I don't want to like corner you guys because I don't know if you guys prepped for any of this, but like the amount of performance difference and profitability from a dealer that doesn't mess with F&I to a dealer that does it poorly is right. It is so, that's why we say low hanging fruit. It's like when you go to these delves that we do, or we start talking to these people where we're looking through, in-depth P&Ls, and we're like, oh, you just don't want to make this chunk of money for free. Okay. That's a conscious decision. That's fine. But Sarah, I know that we've talked about it a lot, and I don't, like I said, I don't want to hold you any real numbers, but it was an incredible percentage increase once we started the F&I group, from the individual performance to when everybody was kind of together and we were holding them accountable on a consistent basis. And we've talked about it before, and I don't know if you remember what the increase was, but if not, it's fine.
It was like four times the income, and I don't have that spreadsheet available, but like yeah, I remember I created the whole schematic for like how much money was being made by each dealership and then by the group. And then like a few years later, once we were on track, it was staggering the difference.
Yeah,
Just
like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it was just
yeah.
and all we did was care. I mean, we didn't hire anybody. We changed some processes. We gave the F&I managers the ability to be upset when the sales staff didn't do the things they said they were going to do for proper TOs and for like, theft stickers and that kind of stuff.
What you're looking at right now is Deal Builder by Onyx. Now, Deal Builder is the very first application that is available on the Onyx platform. And it's all about making it easier for customers to buy from dealerships. Now, when we started that turnaround project where we came into our old dealership and tried to modernize it and give customers better experiences to keep them coming back more, this was the very first tool that we built. And the reason is we noticed that our front-end profit was horrible. And by creating Deal Builder and using it for a couple months inside of this store, we immediately doubled the front-end margin of our products. So all of the motorcycles selling through this dealership were making twice as much gross profit as they were before, which made the store so much healthier. So here's what we've now built commercially available for you, so you can try it out as well. So if you look at this view, you can see not only is there a personalized video you can create for every individual quote you send to every individual customer, but you also can upload any photos of those vehicles so that the customer can see your exact vehicle on your showroom floor. Scroll directly below that and you can see a timeline, basically how much longer this particular quote and these numbers are going to last. And you can change that expiration date to be whatever you want to and create that countdown for it. Scroll slightly lower and you'll see any accessories. If you wanted to add accessories to a quote, you can do it very easily on the back end of this, and the customer can turn those accessories on and off, seeing the effect that it has on their down payment and their monthly payment. Keep scrolling and you'll find the trade-in information. That's where we can have any listed information for what they may be bringing in. That includes the approximate value, the approximate payoff they have for it, and ultimately the equity that would be bringing into this deal. Scroll slightly lower and you'll see the really engaging, exciting, and interesting part, and that is the finance options tool. I think of this like the old school Foursquare, but modernized. Nobody really likes using a Foursquare. So what was the psychology behind that? Why did it work? Well, it's because in a Foursquare, the top two numbers in the Foursquare are the dealership's numbers. It's what I would give in trade. It's what the vehicle's price is. The bottom two numbers are the numbers the customer is in control of. It's their down payment and monthly payment. So it's their numbers, their money, not the dealership's money. So the Foursquare's concept was always to make sure the numbers that are being adjusted are customer money, not dealership money. And we took that same concept and applied it in a much more modern, much more transparent way that doesn't feel quite as used car salesy. So if you look down here in the finance or the payment details and down payment, you can scroll this from your 20% down all the way down to zero or all the way up. This just allows the customer to pick what their terms should be. Below that, we can see their loan term. So maybe they don't want to finance for 60 months. They'd rather go 84. And that will change the down payment and monthly payment, depending on what are those terms that are set up for them. Their credit rating, maybe they'll say, I have absolutely incredible credit. Well, I don't need to do a credit pull yet just to tell you approximately what that would be if you did, in fact, have great credit. So I scroll that all the way up to the very top, and now it'll show me exactly what that down payment and monthly payment is, all within the acceptable parameters. This means that now the customer can scroll down and not only see the specific details of their quote, but they can click right here and apply for financing, which is going to bring them right over to your website to fill in that credit application. This isn't an all-encompassing tool that connects with every other thing and does every single step of the job for you. We created one small, inexpensive plugin that just allows you to do one step of your process a lot faster and easier and smoother and in a modern, interactive way. Now, This is the first of many small interactive applications that will all begin working together in a cohesive ecosystem on that Onyx platform. So go sign up for the Onyx platform. It is absolutely free. And then sign up for this application, this deal builder application. This application is $30 a month for your entire store. So everyone can use the same application. Everyone can see all those quotes that are out. You can see how many times it's been viewed by the customer. You can see if they've sent it to a friend. You can see all the information they accepted when they clicked on apply for financing. So it really streamlines the process and makes it a lot easier and faster for you. And I am so certain that it's going to double the front end margin of your major unit sales that we're giving you the first 30 days absolutely free. So sign up. Try it. If you hate it, if it doesn't work, if it doesn't double your margin, just cancel. There's absolutely nothing you're going to lose. Just try it out. Tell us what you think. Give us any feedback. And we'll continue to make really cool tools for dealership operators, for dealership staff, by dealership operators and staff. So enjoy this tool. Go sign up at platform.onyx.io or simply visit onyx.io and it'll direct you right over to that area and we'll get you started. Thank you so much. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
But also we installed the passport too.
Oh my God.
That was a big part of
Yeah.
it too. So
Passport's huge.
it kind of comes full back to full circle from the beginning of this conversation with our F&I group and why it's so successful. It's because it's a culture. And so then we built a culture around passport.
Yeah.
And that was a huge part of the growth.
Yeah. No, they when I left, they ordered passports when there was no one in charge, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
They ordered them wrong, but that's okay. I love that. We got through it. Oh my God. I modified our passport, by the way, and now I'm manually perforating them. I printed up new ones. This may not make sense to anybody who's listening to this, but I sit at the table and every time I get like 100 at a time. And I got this Amazon perforator because now you can tear them in half. And one half that has the information stays in the deal jacket. The other half goes with the customer with all of the information that they've always wanted. Because everybody was like, should we keep it or give it? And it's like, now you can do both. High tech. Amazon makes a perforator. And I sit there and I go for like 2 hours. And it's awesome. I should show you. We're doing a whole podcast on passport. Well, I can show it to you, the high tech. I think on the passport should be a whole podcast because if you're listening to this right now and you say, "What's the passport?" Call me. Well, or Max, yeah, and I'll tell you.
Just say it. The passport is tour, right? It is the guided tour around the dealership.
It is.
It usually goes between F&I 1 and F&I 2.
Yeah, and to be fair though, if yours isn't perforated, you're no longer playing the game. Okay, you're behind the technology. You hear a lot of conversation about AI. I want to have conversation about perforation. That's it. That's a whole podcast about perforation.
So okay, Justin referred to low hanging fruit already as in F&I overall as low hanging fruit that people aren't doing.
Yes.
I also want to know kind of what are some of the things. Passport is a phenomenal example of something that can really move the needle. But what other things are you noticing right now that you walk into a store and you see they're not selling, I don't know, Gap, or they're not the sales department or service department isn't engaged in the conversation about PPMs? Or what is the thing that like has really been shaking things up in stores you step into?
Can I take this? So what comes to mind instantly is maintenance. And I think that like so many dealerships could be making so much more money and just having so much better customer retention and just customer satisfaction by building a culture within the dealership around a maintenance program that retains customers to their dealership or their dealer group, whether that's by an administrator that offers that or whether it's by their own internal maintenance program. I think that is such a huge deal because it affects everybody in the dealership. You know, like the maintenance that I have in my head is 6 services, right? So that's 6 additional door swings for that customer coming back to that dealership. That's 6 opportunities to sell them, you know, another bike or, you know, tires, or tell them about the new helmets that just came out or whatever it is that's exciting, you know, 6 more touches. And it keeps those bikes in operational order. It makes sure that they're always going to be serviced and properly maintained so that when they're traded in well. And so that a customer doesn't like have to deal with a $1,400 service and they don't want to pay it because maybe they don't have the money. And so then the bike is maybe it breaks down or whatever, you know, like not servicing your motorcycle causes problems for all kinds of reasons. So that is the one product. And so many dealerships that just let F&I kind of dictate what happens, and they think F&I sees it as a high price product. They don't really offer it unless somebody asks for it, you know, but it's a really good product. And if everyone's talking about it, and if goals are set around that product, or maybe a dealership even offers maybe a higher commission on that product to try to get F&I to sell it, or, you know, a spiff for getting a certain penetration percentage, something like that. It really, really affects every department in the dealership. And that's where I think the biggest growth opportunity is.
Really good point.
I agree 100. So I think that there's a cultural shift that we talk about constantly on this podcast and just in person about customer focused selling and how to re-engage staff in a meaningful customer way, right? We talk about meaningful customer contact. We talk about, like, don't just call the guy because he bought a bike 2 years ago and see if he wants to buy a new bike. That's like not a good call. Like, you need to engage with that person. And the easiest way to do it is from the product side. So, like, if your dealership is functioning off of product, priority maintenance, diamondize, battery, how many batteries do we replace, right? Theft coverage. If you're functioning off those conversations, not only are you selling more and making more money, but your customer is getting a much better experience, because you're talking about bringing them into the community that is your store, and you're doing that through profit. And so it's a no-brainer. The staff adjustment to it. It's a very old, if anybody is opposed to it, it's a very old school way of thinking, where you're still trying to sell motorcycles off of horsepower and how dangerous they are, instead of community experience and how fun they are. You see what I'm saying? It's just new and old school. And the newest way to build that culture, the best way, is to keep them engaged in quality experience. And that's what it comes out. I mean, we have F&I managers in the group that just couldn't sell theft. They just couldn't sell theft. And they were in cities that literally had bikes stolen all the time.
Yeah.
Had bikes stolen right out of the dealership more than once. That's a cultural adjustment. That's a cultural adjustment to not having the staff relay those stories to protect their customer. It's an unvalue. They devalue the product in their brain because they're not really sure. Maybe it's never happened to them, or they're not really sure exactly how it works. But I've got more. It's not just that one example. In your store, while you're listening to this, you have the same example with your F&I person.
Yeah.
Get the rest of the staff involved, because if your service writer believes in maintenance and your parts person believes in theft and understands where it's at, they all talk about it from that perspective.
Oh yeah,
It's
some of the
a
stores that I've heard of having the best PPM numbers, especially when they're doing like in-house, so they like really try and push it hard. They force every employee when they buy a new vehicle to have prepaid maintenance. Now, they get it at a discounted rate, but it basically means that when a brand new buyer is walking through the showroom and they go, "Should I get this prepaid maintenance?" They go, "I have it." Like, of course they're going to buy it if the entire store has prepaid maintenance already. So I mean, it
also
really
like
is a
forcing
cultural
people.
adoption. What's that? Yeah.
I also like forcing people. They force them.
You'll lose your job if you don't buy the PPM. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
So
and naming it and like calling it something that's, you know, for your dealership, and making it like more appealing. Like maybe they get something in addition to that, you know, it's saving them money off of their services, but maybe they get like coupons for parts or service or motor clothes or whatever it is, you know. Or if you guys are having events, you know, maybe you call it your VIP program, and like your VIP people, when you have your food truck event, get a extra ticket to tacos or a beer or whatever it is that you're doing, something to bring the community together around that product.
I bought velvet ropes, and I made a small square in the middle of the showroom, and I forced them to stand in it. I was like, "Oh, you have priority maintenance? That's where you have to stand." And then we all go around and we have fun. They don't have that much fun, but they're in there like cattle. It's great. Then we all know.
No, that's the prepaid maintenance.
Yeah, and then I force my staff to, whenever they walk by the little cattle area, they go, "Profit." No,
God, make it sound really bad. So actually, what's funny is what's funny is not that, but a lot of our training, our study that we had done of dealerships prior was about customer lifecycle value And
Yes.
the value of a customer who sticks around for 3.5 years, which is where they're likely to trade, they're 2.5 times as valuable as a customer who just buys once and doesn't return again. And so the idea that you're using PPM, I think some dealerships have looked at property maintenance as this, you make the money on the front end because the customer's never going to show back up, and maybe that reinsurance or the retro is going to get me the money back in 3 years from now. But in reality, the thing is, I want those customers to spend that money. I want them to come in because I am going to be making money along the way. But most importantly, like you said, Sarah, the bike's going to be in better shape. It's going to trade at 3.5 years. They're going to buy their next one because so many of the dealerships we've studied, their customers buy units and they're not buying their second and third and all this. They're like disappearing because there isn't that nurturing component that Justin was talking about before. And I don't mean nurturing as in put them in a pen and poke at them, but nurturing is in we're really like trying to get you re-involved, giving you an excuse to become an enthusiast and spend time and effort and put miles on your vehicle, so we need to service them more often. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Now that does bring us to... Go ahead, Justin.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna continue down
make some
the path.
offhanded comment somewhere. So
no, I was gonna say something.
So I did have a question though about prepaid maintenance. This has been a big conversation with a lot of stores, is in-house prepaid maintenance. Now, Sarah, you kind of mentioned that is something, obviously a lot of stores are doing, but so I'll kick it off with just my concern. I loved the in-house prepaid maintenance. We had it at the dealership here before I sold it. We called it the Winner's Circle. We had a special name. We forced everyone that worked here to get it. But we had special events for people who are Winner's Circle members. They had free pickup and delivery. There was all these other features, but we could do that because we ran that prepaid maintenance. So, we had this escrowed account where we could, some of it is paying out for policies, but some of it is knowing that, not everybody's going to return for this service. So as long as our penetration's high enough and our redemption rate is low enough, we know we've got funds that we can reinvest in the community. Now, it worked so incredibly well that we sold the hell out of them. But then we sold the dealership, and I had 3 years of, liabilities that I needed to pay out over that period of time, and it sucked. For 3 years, getting invoices or even just trying to negotiate that deal so we wouldn't have to do that. So tell us more. I mean, are you seeing that happen a lot? If so, what's your suggestion to dealers who are thinking about prepaid maintenance? What's your idea?
I was just going to say that when we go into a dealership and they have an in-house program, we talk to them about what are your future plans? Are you looking to acquire other dealerships? Are you looking to be acquired? If the answer is yes to either one of those, then we talk to them about, hey, is that 2 years down the road? Is that 3 years down the road? Where do you see that happening? And we start that soft conversation of, that's a lot of liability that's going to be on your books. We have programs that they'll work just as well as your in-house program. Maybe we can tailor it to match, to be very similar to what you're doing today. But let's take all of that liability and let's put it over into a service provider.
Yeah.
So you're still getting that same retention value. You're still getting everything that you had before. You can still name it whatever you want to name it. You can customize the name of it and everything, and it can still be yours. And especially if it's going into a retro or a reinsurance, you're not only still getting that front end value of that and that customer retention, but you're also getting the back end profits without any of the liability that's left on your books.
Yeah.
We have dealers that are starting to see that, and they're making that transition over from doing the in-house over into going in with a service provider product.
Interesting. And so you raised the idea of there's clearly liability when I've got my 3 years of tail. And I feel like if either I had understood retro better or retro was around back then, we wouldn't have done an in-house PPM. I would have just done a retro instead.
Yeah.
But is there any of that same risk that's carried when somebody is doing reinsurance? Or is it that it's its own standalone business that you don't have to sell with your dealership? Is there risk in doing reinsurance the same way there's risk in doing in-house PPMs?
So no, I wouldn't say that there's any risk in doing a reinsurance. Because with reinsurance, a little bit different than retro. Some retros will allow you to pick and choose which products go into your retro. And then some retros, depending upon the service provider, will say, okay, everything that is able to go into a retro has to go into the retro. With the reinsurance side, you get to pick and choose which products actually seed into your account. I will say that if you have reinsurance with the right service provider and you understand the loss ratios, the historical loss ratios that's coming in for those specific products, you should not have any risk associated with putting it into a reinsurance.
Okay.
We work with providers that have long historical data that shows where those losses should be coming in. So you can have that assurance that it goes in there and you're going to have enough on the back end side that it's covered. The other thing is with a reinsurance as well as a retro, I should just say profit participation in general, you have quarterly reviews with your dealerships, shareholder financial reviews. You get, on a reinsurance side, you get monthly ceding statements. So you see how it's performing on a monthly basis.
Oh, that's great.
If there's any kind of trend that's going a little haywire where you have to make adjustments, that can easily be done with your service provider of adjusting those reserves. So if you start to see where that PMA is starting to creep up around 85, 90%, you can easily make adjustments to the reserves and keep it from going out of that 100% thing. So if you're with the right agency and you're with the right service provider, you should not have any concerns with any kind of risk.
Nice.
If they're doing their due diligence. And it's all about the product. It's about keeping your eye on the product. And it's about making adjustments when you see a trend starting to form.
That's great. That's really great.
Yeah, the worst conversation is to go into a dealership and say, you did not meet your retro. Like Justin, if we went to you and said, listen, you didn't qualify this year because your loss ratio is above 100%. I have a feeling Justin would be like, why are you having the conversation with me now?
Yeah.
Why did you have it 6 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where we come in. That's where your service provider comes in. They should be watching how your profit participation program is performing well in advance of it becoming a problem.
And you guys do, I think one of the things that you have to think about too, Max, is that like because I've managed my own in-house before, and it is a job, and a lot of us are understaffed.
Yeah.
And so when you really think, I've weighed out this over and over again because it's so appealing to take an in-house, but when you add the risk in with the labor required to manage it properly, it really does real quick. I think back in the heyday, like when you were doing it and when we were doing it, we had a dealer that is operating off of 9 staff members now with 22 staff members, And so like, yeah, man, all day long. Now we were managing stuff but like now I think with how tight payroll is and everything like that, I don't even think I could do it. I mean, even if it was it was an increased, access to the money, I don't think I could manage it effectively.
Yeah.
And so you take the extra staff, the extra work, and then you really look at the profit difference not being that much. It's a no-brainer for me to not manage my own.
Yeah.
So
Just use a retro. I mean,
just use it. Yeah.
Just
use a retro.
It's going to work out.
And take all that energy and focus on product out the door. And then that's it. Like that's all you got to worry about.
Yeah. Well, you put people in the pen, and then that makes it easy. In the velvet rope pen in the middle of the showroom.
Yeah. So the goal is buy extra velvet ropes because they can't fit.
So you can always grow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then eventually the dealership's just all velvet ropes. That's it. Just a big.
The takeaways.
all around. That's the takeaway.
Velvet ropes and a perforator.
Oh my God.
The
Listen,
two big
you guys-
takeaways from this.
Two big
today.
takeaways from today's conversation. Yep.
Oh God. All right. Well, final big takeaway then. Where can people find out more about you and maybe have a conversation about getting in that list of dealers and getting some help?
Yeah, so our website is adventurespecialty.com, and you can go on there and contact us. You can contact myself, Sarah, Mike, or Jamie. We would love to get some.
But it's been
some dealers
incredibly helpful for the Dealer Lab and for Justin's group. And we've been working closely with you guys for a very long time now. So it's nice to see what you guys have built, and it's cool to see that you're supporting. I mean, it feels more than just supporting the department. It is a dealership wide recognition of like, how is this healthy for everybody? Actually, there is one last thing I've tried to bring this up before with other F&I, and you know, for a very long time, I'm really a fixed ops guy, right? I'm like the back of house guy. That's what I usually do. It's always interesting to look at F&I, and that is considered front of house. It's considered variable operations and sales, when in reality, you're selling stuff that keeps people coming back to fixed operations. So I very greedily want to like drag F&I into being a fixed ops department, because you're like the membership level to be fixed ops, you know?
And Max, you should, all dealers should have F&I be at least managed from a fixed ops mindset.
Yeah.
Because it is a variable, it is a show, but it is a fixed ops product.
Yeah. It is a fixed ops product, and it can be looked at in that way too. You know, it doesn't need to be, you know, I look at the F&I manager here, Michelle, she's not slow when we're not selling units. She's trying to sell VSCs and PPMs and tire and wheels throughout the entire year. I mean, that is a much more consistent thing than just what's happening in the showroom floor based on seasonality. There's so much more opportunity in that. And so, yeah, I do 100%. See that as a great opportunity. And I guess I only bring it up that way because you look at a composite of the financials of looking at a department, and it's, you know, F&I is just clumped right into the sales department. It's like, all right, that's where all the money's coming in. Then I want to be like, turns out you're just not making any money in sales at all.
Well, yeah. If you change the mindset at the counter with fixed ops too, and you need to call, because it's state to state, obviously, and some other things, but you need to call them and talk to Adventure Specialties, talk to them. It's amazing how many products you can sell at the service counter.
Yeah.
Like that nobody thinks about. So because it's talked about as a sales product. So like to get into the box, which by the way, if you're calling it the box, stop calling it the box. That's crazy town. That's old school.
On the showroom floor?
Well, listen, that's different. But yeah, the pin. No, if you're only selling in there, you're missing just store-wide opportunity, and your F&I manager should be upset if he's in there and he's in a suit, or they don't come out ever. Ridiculous. Like they need to be talking to people at the service counter, and these guys can show you what you can sell there. But it is fixed ops forward, man. Love it.
Yeah, I think that idea of gluing the departments together and F&I being that glue, that's a really incredible way of looking at what F&I can potentially do for stores. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. This was really fun hanging out, learning more. I learned a lot today, so thank you. And I guess you'll see our F&I teams in your next meeting.
Yeah, of course.
Rock and roll.
All right, y'all. See ya.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.